There's two main issues that I see very frequently when it comes to men and getting their dating life handled. I've coached over 700 dudes since 2019. I've dealt with a lot of high level successful men. And every time I'm talking to a client and I'm breaking down their social life and their dating life, I consistently see these two recurring problems. And so I want to share with you guys these problems. That way you have more awareness about what's going on in your own life, but also more importantly, how you can solve these to actually accomplish the dating life you truly want. So, very first one that I see, this happens a lot with men when I'm talking about their day to day. They're a busy guy, they go to work, maybe they go to the gym, they hang out with friends sometimes on the weekends. So they're not super social. They're rather productive in their day to day. They're healthy, they make decent money. But the problem with them, when I actually boil it down and look at the numbers on a piece of paper, it's they're not actually interacting with that many attractive women on a weekly basis, right? That's what it comes down to. Maybe, yes, you're busy working a 40 plus hour a week job, you commute to your job, you come home, or you take care of the kids, or you do something after work, and then you go to the gym, and then you go do your workout, and then by the time you come home, that's the end of your day. And that goes on Monday to Friday. And then Friday night, you're exhausted because you worked all week. And then Saturday, Sunday, maybe you have like one activity going on. You still go to the gym and maybe you go hang out with that one friend. And then the rest of the time, it's kind of catching up on life, right? Cleaning up the house, doing all these other things. And that is a normal average dude, right? That guy, if I actually look on paper, how many attractive women is he actually talking to in his day to day? And the answer is pretty much consistently zero. Maybe if he goes out on a Friday or Saturday night, he may encounter a couple women, but he has zero momentum going. Zero momentum. Like there is no way he just worked this whole week without talking to anybody for the last couple of weeks and suddenly he's just gonna swoop in and pick up that girl that's arguably out of his league, right? And that's the problem. Most men are stuck in that phase because they don't have enough consistency. And I'll explain towards the tail end of this video how to get out of that loop. I also want to talk to you guys about the second most common problem I see with men in their dating life. So for the guys that are already getting on dates, right? Maybe you have somewhat of a decent dating life, or every so often you go on a date with a girl that you genuinely like. The second biggest problem that I see is that you go on dates and they don't actually lead to attraction, intimacy, the girl liking you, the girl chasing you, the girl wanting to continue that relationship with you. All right. And again, these are two different sticking points. I guess the second one's more of a quality problem, I guess, because you're actually going on dates. But these are the most common things I see. It's men who just don't have dates. And for the reason, I mean, if I boil it down to any one thing, simply put, they're not getting enough conversations with women they're attracted to. Second biggest problem is you go on dates, but you're not converting the date. Obviously, there's a lot of other small, subtle mistakes that go on throughout this whole thing. Those are the two biggest problems that I see. So let me break down how you guys can actually solve these, whether you're guy A or guy B. I want to show you guys the plan of action of what you need to be doing to overcome this sticking point, right? So if you're the first guy, it really comes down to initially getting into more environments where there are actually women you're attracted to. That alone is not going to solve the problem, but that is a mandatory, absolute necessity, is that you need to be in locations where there are women that you are attracted to. That way you have opportunity. Now, for some of you guys, that could be at a different gym. That could be at the grocery store. That could be at the downtown area in your city. That could be on the weekends, going somewhere in town where there's like a social event. That could be even nighttime environments on the weekends. That could be you getting invited to shows or house parties from your social circle. And lastly, that could also mean online dating. Yes, that counts. If you have an online dating profile that is actually matching you up with women that you were attracted to, that means that on a weekly basis, you could get into conversations with these women if you're actually matching with them. So that is one. It's not the end all be all. In my opinion, it's my least favorite personally, but it is worth noting. So that is the first part of this, is getting into more locations where there are the women that you are attracted to. All right. And now it's going to be on you to figure out, well, which location is the best for me. Right? Because some guys, they live in a very busy downtown city and there's a lot of opportunity. Some of you guys have the luxury of walking outside on the weekends in the busy downtown strip and there are women there. Awesome. That could be a place you utilize. Some of you guys don't have that much opportunity, in which case you're gonna need to be a little bit more strategic I don't think that if you're in a smaller area, there's going to be any one location that you could go to where there's going to be a lot of women. For a guy like that, he's going to need to utilize a different strategy, which is simply you're going to need to go to 3 or 4 or 5 different locations throughout your entire week. And at each location, you could expect to get 1, 2, maybe 3 opportunities to interact with women. All right, so that will actually be for a lot of guys. It's rare that men live in downtown Brickell, and if you do, awesome. But if you don't, well, Kyle, there's not that many women. I get that. You're gonna need to pick 2 locations that you could go to a couple different days a week where you could actually get into interactions, all right? That's really what it comes down to. For some of you guys, it might not be that subtle, but again, depending on you as an individual and the location you live in, you need to map out your week and start thinking about where can I go to just get a little bit more opportunity? And yes, that could actually mean you going to Target. That could actually mean you working remote at the cafe 2 days a week. That could actually mean you go to the mall on a Saturday or Sunday for an hour or 2. All right, it could also be a combination of these things. It could be you go to a more populated gym after work instead of early in the morning. It could mean you go into the grocery store or the Target on like a Tuesday and a Thursday for 30 to 60 minutes to maybe do a little bit of shopping, but also you're intentionally going there to socialize. And then maybe on the weekend, you go to the farmer's market on Sunday for an hour, hoping to get into some interaction. And on Saturday, you go to a dance class. That is a good structure for somebody who doesn't live in a crazy busy downtown city. Okay, that's how you would get into more locations. Obviously from there, it's going to be on you to start more interactions. All right, so if you already break down your day-to-day and you're like, actually, you know what? I actually do see 5+ women I'm attracted to every single week. If you see that many, but you're not getting into that many interactions, then it's just a matter of taking more action. Some of you guys actually have the opportunity, you're just not opening. All right, so part 1 to the first point is going to be positioning an environment. Part 2 is going to be starting those conversations. Final piece to that point, though, is going to be, are you making your interactions ready? Are you inviting women out? Okay, so you need to evaluate which part of that bottleneck is your funnel. All right, let's move into the second point, which is you're actually going on dates already, but now you're not ending up getting second date, third date, whatever it is. I'm getting the, hey, you're a great guy, I just don't feel a spark, or you're getting ghosted. None of these girls are actually chasing you after the date. I would attribute that to a couple different things. It's gonna be, for the guys that I see that it happens to consistently, a lot of the times they have a whack vibe. I talk to them and I listen to them and I'm just imagining myself sitting down across the table from this guy for 2 to 3 hours. And I could imagine that the way that he talks is very not stimulating. All right. He talks in a very unenthusiastic way with a fucking nasally voice, and there's no smile, there's no humor, there's no fun story, there's no burst of emotion coming out of yourself. Just the way he talks, I'm just imagining sitting there for 30 to 60 minutes, and I'm like, yeah, no wonder you're getting ghosted, because I can't imagine you being able to hold a girl's attention for 2-3 hours, let alone make it sexual. Right? So a lot of you guys, it's really just your vibe and the interaction. All right? Some of you guys, though, I actually talked to him like, okay, he actually seems like he's got a decent vibe in conversation. But if it's still happening to a guy like that, then the next thing is he keeps it very, very friendly. There's no sexual tension. There's no sexual intensity in the interaction. There's no flirtatiousness. There's no injections of man to woman in the interaction. There's no intent. You could actually be somewhat of a, I guess you could say successful or maybe even physically attractive guy. And maybe you have a decent level of conversation. You're like a charismatic dude. But if you're afraid to take it to that next level, it just bleeds off in the sub-communication. And over time, it just becomes this friendly thing. And maybe during the initial interaction, it got the girl's attention enough for her to be like, yeah, this guy's attractive. He had a good vibe. I'm curious. I'm down to go on a date with him. And then she goes on the date with you. And it doesn't really get off the ground from there. There's no spark. There's no attraction. There's no flirtatiousness. There's no sexual tension. Not that it even needs to go to a makeout or sex. It just needs to have that burst, though. There needs to be that flavor, that burst, that spark in the conversation. And that is done by, again, injecting that flirtatiousness, that maybe it's escalation, maybe it's a little bit of man to woman, it's a little bit of sexual innuendo, it's a little bit of tension being created by the nonverbals, it's a little bit of physical escalation, more playfulness, more challenging, more teasing. It's a combination of all of those elements. All right, so there's different archetypes of men that I see, different sticking points for sure. But I wanted to make this video because these are by far the most common ones. And so if you're a guy watching this, at least now you have clarity on this is where I'm struggling. This is what my sole focus should be going into. And just start hammering on that thing. If you're not getting into the right environments, that's your goal for the next week, bro. Start getting into more locations where there's more opportunity. You should be encountering 10 to upwards of 20 different women that you see in your week that you'd be like, that girl's attractive. I would actually be down to have an interaction with her, maybe even go on a date with her. If that's not happening at least 5 to 10 times in the week, you're not in enough environments. And you may need to tap into more of these sources. Go back to the list I said earlier in this video, write down where you're located, and do an audit of your week and how can you start stacking in more opportunity there. If you're a guy watching this and you already have 5 to 10 plus opportunities a week, but you're just not getting into that many conversations, your sticking point or your bottleneck in the funnel is just taking action. It's opening, it's carrying conversations more. You need to start opening and approaching more consistently. You need to start getting your online dating profile optimized to get more matches. All right, if you're a guy who's already getting into those conversations and they're going to dates, then I just kind of broke down exactly what you need to be focusing on as well. So regardless of where you're at in this funnel, hopefully this brings awareness to it. If you want help fast tracking that process, if you know where you're at, but you're like, hey, I actually need help getting to those next levels, you could work with me directly. Links are down below in the description. You can check out the brand new coaching programs for 2025. That's all for this video, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.